And then I also think that George Pickens, even though his numbers, his numbers are inconsequential this year because he tore his ACL in the offseason and didn't come back until a few games left in the season for Georgia. But he's an elite 5-star receiver. And he showed with a deep ball against Alabama that maybe he's ready to roll, ready to get into the flow and be a factor. And so his one-on-one matchup or whatever they do to bracket him or give a little help his way, I think that's huge. I think we're going to get a feel pretty early, just like we did in the Ohio State game. It was pretty easy to figure out early, oh, wow, Michigan's offensive line is beating them up, is pushing them around, is pounding them. And when you see that physical dominance, it usually doesn't go away. Sometimes you can see an adjustment. If it's a scheme issue, then if you've got a good coaching staff, they can make some adjustments and, oh, okay, this dude's getting beat. Let's give him help. Boom, boom, boom. And we can shore that up. But when you're just getting manhandled up front, and Ohio State only looked that bad on rush defense twice this year, and it was against Oregon and it was against Michigan, but they were two completely different problems. The Oregon issue was they were out schemed. Their players were out of position. You didn't even see them in the TV frame half the time. The play calling just totally fooled Ohio State's defense. Their defensive alignments were awful. They just got out schemed. Against Michigan, their players were in position all the time. They didn't get fooled by anything. They just got whipped. They just got pushed around, dragged around the field. They weren't like gaping holes because their linebackers weren't out of position. They were holes. They were nice lanes to run through, but usually there was contact made fairly close to the line of scrimmage, but the offensive linemen just continued just to push dudes down the field, and Haskins continued to just pound them, and he didn't go down immediately. He went down 7 yards later. So seeing that physical matchup is going to be huge. And I do think Cade and Stetson Bennett are similar quarterbacks, except for that one key we were talking about the other day, to me, that if history repeats itself, Cade McNamara doesn't make the mistakes that Stetson Bennett makes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I said, when I said that, Desmond, who's not here, tried to make me seem like like the bad guy. How dare you compare them? I'm like, no, dude, they're actually pretty close, but whatever. I guess we'll find out on Friday. No, I agree a lot with what you said, Mark. And I think, which, you brought up the physicality that Michigan displayed early in the Ohio State game. I think what it did more than anything was set the tone, and it started the mental. There are multiple games that go on within the game, right? You have the mental side, you have the physical side, you have the schematic side, which the coaches handle, right? And I think right away, what Michigan has done a beautiful job of this whole year was setting the tone and winning the physical game very, very early. And I think, especially playing against a talented team like Georgia, Michigan, just like Ohio State, we had to find a way to physically set the tone and show Georgia we're not just some puny Big Ten team coming from up north. We're here and we're here to play, and these guys from up north can hit and are strong as well. Because the SEC and those boys down there, they really believe, that they all country fed. And they can all just push you over, because they do have huge offensive linemen, and they can just maul you. And defensive linemen, they can just overpower you, and you can't overpower them if you're not playing for a school that doesn't say that's not part of the SEC. And I think that's going to be one of the things that Michigan may have the opportunity potentially to catch Georgia off guard a little bit. This is not a game in which one team is going to out. There's a huge discrepancy in terms of athleticism. I think they're pretty close. But definitely, Michigan has showed the recipe that they have a element to their game that maybe Alabama doesn't even have. I think Michigan has based on how they played the last couple of weeks, has the most effective running game in the country, especially offensive line play. So anytime you have that, I mean, that's just it's tough to deal with that for 60 minutes. You may get up and hype and ready to go for a quarter and a half, maybe even a halftime. But when it's a third quarter, mid-third quarter, or even fourth quarter, and Michigan's offensive line is still mauling you like they have been doing all game, eventually you start to break a little bit. I mean, that's just tough. You start to break mentally. You start making mistakes, as you brought up, Mark, with having guys in the right position, shooting your gas correctly. You start breaking down physically, being tired. We saw Jordan Davis basically giving no push at some point in that game versus Alabama. So, it's just Michigan, they just lean on you and lean on you. If they're able to do that against Georgia, I think you will see eventually that Georgia defense start to break a little bit. And I think just like the Ohio State game, Michigan has to win a time of possession. They have to do that. Unless they're going to do the anomaly like they gave versus Iowa and get these huge explosive plays, which are scoring 14 points in a matter of, 4 or 5 minutes. Okay, that's breaking the norm of how this Michigan team normally operates. Now, if they do that, maybe you can do a couple different things. But other than that, it's going to be one of those games where you're just going to have to lean on Georgia and eventually make them break.
So Georgia remains a 7.5-point favorite in the game. I think that Vegas believes in the SEC. I think Vegas believes in the recruiting rankings, and they believe in the defense that they saw the entire season until the SEC championship game. That's got to be my conclusion on that.
That's fine. That they can think where they're going. And Mark, we talked about this before. He was like, how much value do you put into Vegas? And I don't remember what was the spread before the Ohio State game, but I think that's probably when we talked about
it's
it.
About the same.
Yeah, about the same. So look, at the end of the day, I think what Michigan fans can take solace in is that there are a couple things you can bank on this team doing. They will show up ready to play. They will show up and they will try, not saying they will try to set the tone physically, and they are not going to beat themselves. Now, rather how talent plays out during the game, that remains to be seen. But I guarantee you, Michigan is not going to show up to this game not prepared and not ready to be in a dogfight. And no matter what happens in the course of this game, this Michigan team won't break. That don't mean they will win. They're going to have a really good chance to win, but they won't break. And I think that gives you solace. It doesn't matter what the outside world says. This Michigan team all year has shown to me, to our fellow fans out there, to people across the country, that they don't care about rankings. They don't care about what the outside world thinks. They have a special belief inside that locker room that they can get anything done.